Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that bras have never been invented. No sports bras, no push-up bras, no straps, no cups, nothing. What would women wear instead? It sounds like a modern problem, but women have been finding ways to support or cover their breasts for thousands of years. And the story of the first bra is much stranger than you might expect. There wasn't one moment when someone suddenly invented the bra. Instead, different cultures created their own solutions long before the modern bra existed. If we travel back more than 2,000 years to ancient Greece, women sometimes used bands of fabric wrapped around the chest. These bands could provide some support, particularly during physical activity. Ancient artwork even shows women participating in athletic activities while wearing breastbands. The Romans had similar garments. Some Roman women used a band of cloth around the breasts, sometimes called a strophium or mamillary. It wasn't a bra in the modern sense. There were no molded cups, adjustable straps, or hooks at the back. It was basically fabric wrapped around the body, but the basic idea was already there. Support the breasts using a separate piece of clothing. Then something fascinating happened. Archaeologists discovered garments at Lengberg Castle in Austria that completely changed what we thought we knew about the history of bras. Hidden inside the castle were pieces of clothing dating to the 15th century, and some of them looked surprisingly similar to modern bras. They had separate cups made from linen, and at least some had shoulder straps. Imagine seeing one without knowing its age. You might think someone had made a primitive modern bra, but these garments were around 500 years old. This discovery showed that women in medieval Europe had more sophisticated breast support garments than historians once assumed. But these early bra-like garments didn't immediately lead to the bras we know today. Fashion moved in another direction. For centuries, European women increasingly wore structured garments that eventually developed into corsets. A corset didn't just support the breasts, it shaped much of the torso. It could change the appearance of the waist, chest, and overall silhouette. By the 19th century, corsets had become a major part of women's fashion in Europe and North America. Some were heavily structured with materials such as steel or whalebone, but corsets could also be restrictive, and as clothing and lifestyles changed, inventors began looking for alternatives. Women wanted garments that could provide support without enclosing and shaping so much of the torso. This is where the story starts moving toward the modern bra. During the late 19th century, several inventors developed breast support garments that separated the upper support from the traditional corset. One important milestone came in 1889, when French inventor Herminie Cadolle introduced a two-part undergarment that divided the traditional corset into separate upper and lower sections. The upper section supported the breasts from the shoulders and represented an important step toward the modern brassiere. But the story didn't stop there. In the United States in 1913, a young woman named Mary Phelps Jacob was preparing to wear an evening gown. According to the famous account, her corset didn't work well underneath the dress because parts of it could be seen around the neckline. So she and her maid created an alternative using 2 handkerchiefs and ribbon. It was lightweight, simple, and very different from the rigid corsets many women were wearing. She later patented her design in 1914 under the name Caress Crosby, and her patent described a backless brassiere. She wasn't literally the first human being to create breast support, and she didn't single-handedly invent every feature of the modern bra, but her design became one of the best-known milestones in its development. The word brassiere itself had already been used for supportive garments, and over time it was shortened simply to bra. During the 20th century, bras changed rapidly. Manufacturers began experimenting with different sizes, elastic materials, adjustable straps, hooks, and more structured cups. Instead of forcing many different bodies into one general shape, bras gradually became available in more shapes and sizes. Then different purposes created completely different designs. Sports required more support during movement. Fashion created strapless and push-up designs, and changing materials made bras lighter, softer, and more flexible. Today, a bra can be made from lace, cotton, synthetic fibers, elastic, foam, and many other materials, but the basic problem it addresses is ancient. Humans have been using fabric and clothing to support, cover, or shape the breasts for thousands of years. So if you could travel back in time, looking for the woman who invented the first bra, you would probably never find her. You might find an ancient Greek woman wrapping fabric around her chest. You might find a Roman woman doing something similar. You might discover a medieval woman wearing a linen garment with separate cups. You might see a 19th century inventor cutting apart the structure of a corset, or Mary Phelps Jacob tying together handkerchiefs and ribbon before an evening event. The modern bra wasn't created in a single day. It was the result of thousands of years of people repeatedly trying to solve the same problem in different ways. And one of the most ordinary pieces of clothing today has a history stretching much further back than most people realize.